Welcome, Cougars. Let's cook. In your knife block, you have a lot of different knives. There's the chef's knife, which works for general purpose cutting. There is the utility knife, also a general purpose cutting knife. There's the bread knife, notice the serrated edge, and there are two paring knives. And they're short, and the word paring means to peel. This is a Santoku knife. Notice the little dimples along the side, and the dimples are used to help release the food so that it doesn't stick. You also will find in your knife block a honing steel, and a honing steel is used to keep the knife blade straight. As you use a knife, you're going to knock the blade either to one side or to the other side, and this will help keep that straight. And there are a lot of different techniques for honing, and you use whatever works for you. One method is to go straight down on the honing steel at a 22-degree angle, and you're just going to go straight down, and this helps align the blade. Make sure that you have something on your countertop, so in case you miss, you don't ruin your countertop. Notice that I'm going from the heel of the knife to the tip of the knife with every stroke. Another method is to go toward yourself. Same idea on each side at a 22-degree angle. And you just do whatever works for you. In the kitchens, we also have a sharpening stone. And the sharpening stone is when there's a nick or a dent on your blade. You'll also find in your cutting block some kitchen shears, and kitchen shears can be used for cutting breads, cutting chunks of vegetables. All of these tools should be kept in the knife block. If you don't have a knife block at home, you should have some kind of a guard to keep on your knife if you keep it in a drawer, or you should purchase a magnet to put on the wall. I keep mine right by the sink so that I can just grab those knives, use them, wash them, put them back on the magnet. When you're peeling vegetables, if you don't have a garbage disposal, it's kind of handy to put a paper towel down and then peel the vegetables onto the paper towel. You can also put the paper towel in the sink. Our sinks have no disposals, and we can't have anything go down the drain, so that's a good idea. And just twist the carrot as you peel. Use that paper towel to catch all of the scraps as you do your vegetable peeling. During lab, you should refer to the picture that's on your microwave door for the proper cuts of the vegetables that you're going to put in your soup. The carrot is to be cut into rounds, so you're just going to cut 1/4-inch rounds. When you're cutting, make sure that you tuck the fingers in. This is called your guiding hand. Tuck your fingers under and then come down with the knife. That's the cut for the carrots in the soup. For the celery in the soup, you want to do an oblique cut, and that is where you angle it at a 45-degree angle, and that just creates a different look to the vegetable, and it makes it look nice in the soup so that they're not all exactly the same. For the zucchini, what you're going to do is cut the zucchini first into quarters, just hold it together, and then you're going to cut it in slices. And that's what goes into your soup. When working with garlic, you need to remember that this is a head of garlic. This is a clove of garlic. So when a recipe calls for a clove, make sure you add this, not this. An easy way to peel garlic is to just take off the ends and then put it under a wide knife and just give it a hit, and that will release the peel. And then you can go ahead and prepare the garlic the way that it's called for in the recipe. One method is to just do little slices, and that works well for some recipes. And then if it calls for you to mince it, then you would mince it into smaller pieces. My favorite method I call the bash technique. And you get a big chef's knife, you put it flat over the clove of garlic, and then you just get out all your anger and hostility and just bash it, and that is ready to go into whatever recipe you would like to put that in. You also can use a clove of garlic, and I'm just going to loosen this outer skin to put it into a garlic press. And I really like a garlic press because it's fast and easy, and if I were doing a lot of cloves of garlic, it would be nice to have a tool like this. There's little holes in the end, and there's also pokey things that will clean it at the end. So I just put the clove of garlic in there. I put this over the top and then I press it. If your hands are a little weak, you can just put your elbow on it and squeeze it. And all of that fresh garlic is ready to put into your recipe. Another method, if you have a lot of cloves of garlic that you want to take the peels off, is just put them in a bowl, put a plate over the bowl, and then shake it like crazy, and all of the peels will come off. Ta-da. When working with onions, sometimes you don't want to use the whole onion. So what you can do is score the onion all the way around with your big chef's knife, and that will take off the outer peel. Then you can peel that outer peel off and use the quantity of the onion that you'd like to use in your recipe. And then this peel actually will help preserve the onion so that you can use it later. And what I'm doing here is I'm doing some horizontal cuts. Then I'm going to do some more the other direction, and then I can go ahead and just slice it, and it's already in small pieces. So there's a little trick to get the small pieces for your recipe. Another thing that is interesting that you can use in your kitchen is a mandolin, and it has a lot of different features. You need to be careful with it because it's very sharp. I'm going to take the rest of the peel off of this onion. And then I'm going to put the mandolin holder onto the onion. When you're shopping for one of these, make sure that you look for one that has very long spikes. That's what holds the food in place. Never use a mandolin without the hand guard. I'm going to poke that on there, then all I have to do is slice it, and I can do rounds, or there's also a feature where you can have little blades come up, so in addition to slicing it, it's going to cut it into smaller pieces. And there's your smaller pieces. A lot of people have different theories as to how to not cry when cooking with onions and cutting onions. One is put it under water. The problem with putting it under water is the chemicals that are in the onion come to the top of the water and you could still cry. Another is to whistle as you use the onion, and supposedly that blows the vapors away and you don't cry. Doesn't work for me. Another one is to light a candle, and that's romantic, but doesn't work for me. Onion goggles or swim goggles or ski goggles work because they keep the vapors away. Another thing that has been proven to work is to refrigerate your onions so they're cold, and then those chemicals aren't released to your eyes as quickly. When you're working with broccoli, a lot of people don't use the stem. The stem tastes just as good as the crown, and when you go to the grocery store, the crown is going to be more expensive than buying the whole piece. So you need to know how to work with the stem and use it in your recipes. What you're going to do is just cut off the dried up end to begin with, and then you need to peel the stem. You can use the edge of a paring knife to peel it back, and if the broccoli is really fresh, that works great. If the broccoli is not fresh, then you can just pick up a vegetable peeler and peel it that way. But I'm also going to reserve a chunk of the broccoli stem, and I'm going to put it in boiling water so that you can see how easy it is to peel once it has been blanched. Blanching is a process that stops enzymatic processes, and it also sets color. So that's been blanched long enough. I'm going to take it out and shock it in an ice bath. I'm also going to take one of the little flowerets, and I'm going to put it in and blanch it real quickly so that you can see the color difference. If you're making a relish plate to take somewhere, blanching either asparagus or broccoli will make it look a lot better. This one has been in the ice bath long enough, and as you'll notice, now it's a lot easier to peel. Other things that peel well after having been blanched are tomatoes and peaches. It just helps get that skin off. So if you have a recipe that calls for tomatoes and you don't want the skin, you can blanch them. Now, for the recipe that you're using today, I would go ahead and cut this now into bite-sized pieces, and that will go into your salad. And I will also cut the florets into bite-sized pieces for the salad. Remember that bite-sized pieces are the size of grapes, not the size of golf balls. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and blanch the tomato. I'm going to put it into boiling water, and you'll be able to see how much easier the peel will come off once it's blanched. Depending on the type of tomato, depending on the type of peach you'll want to look up, I usually just Google it to find out how long you should blanch it in order for the peel to come off. You do not want to cook it, you just want to blanch it. Now I'll go ahead and put it into the ice water to shock it, and when it's cool I'll bring it out and it will be much easier to peel. So now look how easily this peel comes off. You could not do that if you had not blanched that tomato. That tomato is totally peeled now. The broccoli that has been blanched is a much more vibrant green. This one is a more dull green. You can see the difference. The same thing happens when you blanch asparagus. It looks much nicer when you serve it. For the recipes today, you will not be blanching it, but I added this just for your information. When man invented fire, cooking became a great benefit. The nutrients available in food become much more easily absorbed for human beings. Another benefit is that it tastes a lot better. So here are some methods of cooking. Conduction is where there's a heat source that connects with the pan, and that cooks the food. Convection is where there's something moving. In this case, it's water, or it could be oil, and that is what cooks the food. Radiation is where the heat source is near the food but not touching the food, like a broiler or like on your grill where it comes from below, and that radiation method is what cooks the food. The last method is microwaves. When cooking with liquids, it's important to know certain terminology. Poaching is 160 degrees, and there are very few bubbles that are forming on the bottom of the pan. Simmering, if you look down into the pan, you can see some of the bubbles forming on the bottom of the pan, and that is 180 degrees to 205 degrees Fahrenheit. None of the bubbles actually begin to churn, but you will see some of them coming to the surface. That is the temperature that your soup that you're working with today will be held at. The last one is boiling. That's 212 degrees, and that's where the bubbles come to the surface and break, and there are a lot of them. If you have a lot of boiling, a full rolling boil, a hard boil, basically what you're doing is creating a lot of evaporation. So in the case of your soup today, you will end up with paste, not soup. Remember to keep it just at simmering. Remember to keep the pot covered. When you cook the bacon in lab today, you're going to want to put the bacon in the bottom of a 9 by 13 glass pan because we're going to do it in the microwave. Once you get it in there, you're going to cover it with 2 pieces of paper towel. Make sure that it's long enough that you can tuck it underneath the sides on both of these. Then you're going to put that in the microwave for 4 minutes. As soon as it's gone for 4 minutes, just fold this back, move the bacon around, put it back on, and then cook it in the microwave at 1-minute intervals until it's nice and crispy. Then you're going to take the bacon right out and put it onto these paper towels and blot it dry. Then set it aside, and you'll use these paper towels to get any residual grease out of the pan. And then remember, whenever we have grease in lab, you need to pour it into a can and then stuff that can with paper towels, and this can cannot be recycled. It will have to go into your regular garbage can. We do have a recycle bin in the class. It looks like this, and you can put steel cans in this. The aluminum cans and plastic, to recycle those, you need to go outside of the classroom door to the left, and there are some in the hallway. In your cupboard on the lower shelf, you will find some staples. There is baking powder, baking soda, and vanilla near the glasses for drinking. There's a difference between baking powder and baking soda. Remember that baking powder has a dry acid and a dry base. And when a liquid is added, there's where you get the carbon dioxide that forms the bubbles that will allow your product to rise. With baking soda, you need an acid in the recipe. I also wanted to show you a difference in mixing of the same quantity of batter with the same recipe and the same bake time with muffins. This one is undermixed, and you'll find dry spots. You'll also find pockets of dry inside. This one is an example of over-mixing the batter. Same quantity, but you'll find tunneling, and it will be a very tough product. This is an example of a perfectly mixed muffin. It was mixed gently, folded in, all of the dry spots are gone. It has a nice crumb on top, and it's very tender. The vanilla in your cupboard is a concentrate. 5 drops equals a teaspoon. So make sure that you remember that, because if you put a teaspoon of this in any recipe, it will be horrible. When you go to get your items from the perishable cart, make sure that you take the black tray to gather all of your ingredients. That way you're going to save steps and you'll get everything that you need. Make sure that you take your measuring tools with you. If you get any produce and you bring that back to your kitchen, make sure that you wash all produce thoroughly. There's a difference between muffin tins. Some are shiny, some are dark. Most recipes work well with a shiny muffin tin, but if you get a darkened one, you can go ahead and lower the oven temperature 25 degrees and they'll turn out much better. In your recipes today, it calls for you to use the hand chopper. Remember that it's stored in your kitchen on the cover, just like this. For the recipes today, it will work better if you chop the nuts first, then remove those, then go ahead and chop the onions. For both recipes, remove those, and then chop the garlic. That way you've saved a lot of tools. In the recipes today, it calls for raisins. Many times they have grit on them. So it is helpful to put them in a sieve, put them under running water, make sure that you separate them and rinse that grit off, and then shake all the water off. You can put them between layers of paper towels and then dry them, but it's very helpful in removing that grit. That's part of the reason some people don't like raisins, so try that. In labs, we always use chicken bouillon rather than chicken stock. And the reason, it's a lot less expensive and it's easier to store for our BYU labs. So make sure that you look on the counter for the non-perishables when we use chicken bouillon or beef bouillon. At the beginning of cook time, remember to fill out this time management plan completely. Remember that you're working from the finish time up. This is the Betty Crocker cookbook that is found above the microwave. Remember to incorporate the readings into your time management plan so that it works with your recipes. For example, if you have reading to do and the muffins are baking, that might be a good time in your time management plan to write, do the Betty Crocker cookbook reading. Any food that's left over is yours, so make sure you bring storage containers to take the food home. We cannot provide foil or plastic wrap or napkins or paper towels for you to take, or all of our budget would go toward paper goods. So make sure and bring those storage containers to take things home. At the end of cooking and at the end of eating and at the end of cleaning, you'll ask a TA to come over and check you out. The TA will then put points and a signature on your lab evaluation form. Make sure that you're ready before you ask them to come over. One indication is that all of your doors and drawers and cupboards will be open, including your microwave and ovens and refrigerator. Everything will be wiped down and clean, and then you can call the TA to come over. Make sure that you hold back your towels and dishcloths so that in case there's something that needs to be wiped up, you can wipe it up at finish time.